Hey guys, welcome back to another video here to talk about the games I beat in 2019. Now, as some of you guys know, it was a little bit of a dry spell for me in 2019. I didn't play as many games, and of course, that is reflected on the amount of games that I beat. I think I only have 19 here on my list. I'm looking at it. I put them on an Excel spreadsheet, and I might have missed a game or two, but then again, that doesn't make it like a huge list. It's only like 19 games. I might have missed one or two. So 2019, as some of you guys know, was a pretty mild year in terms of gaming for me. So, but nevertheless, I want to do this video just to share with you guys the games that I played. Nothing spectacular. A lot of the games are shorter in nature, but it is what it is. Hopefully 2020 will be a better year in terms of games that I complete. So with that being said, let's start with number one, which is Kirby Star Allies on the Nintendo Switch. I do have an impressions video if you guys want to take a look at that for my extended thoughts. But overall, it was a very fun Kirby game. Some interesting mechanics in terms of adopting the elements to solve puzzles and whatnot. But nevertheless, I don't think this is among my favorite Kirby games, but I'm glad I played it. It was a fun game, but I was kind of expecting a little bit more out of it. So for number two, I have an old classic of mine, a recurring game on my channel, which is Battlefield 3 on the Xbox 360, but I did play this on the Xbox One via the EA Access service. I know that's a mouthful right there, but very thankful of the backwards compatibility. I know this is a very old game, but it's one of my favorite Battlefield games out there, and I can still play the multiplayer, and there's still a decent-sized community out there, believe it or not, for this game. I think that's a testament on how much people love this game. So I keep playing this game. I can't get away from it. I'm good at it. I know the maps by heart. So Battlefield 3, another recurring game on my list every year, pretty much. At number three, Batman Return to Arkham Asylum via the Xbox One via Game Pass service. I was more than glad to revisit Arkham Asylum, a game that I bought it on day one when it came out on the PlayStation 3. Beat it back in the day, got the Platinum Trophy, back when I was, pretty diligent with trophy hunting and whatnot. So I decided to go back to Arkham Asylum via this, remastered version, and I'm glad I did. I'm a huge fan of the Batman Arkham games, the gameplay, the fighting mechanics, everything. I just love about the series. So it was a fun time going back to that game, and yeah, it's one of my favorite games in the series, obviously. So very happy to go back and play that game. At number four, we have another game that I went back to revisit, and it's Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS. It's basically a port of the GameCube version with some added new features for the Nintendo 3DS. I do have an impressions video if you guys want to check out my extended thoughts, but overall it's a game that I have a lot of nostalgia, playing this back in the day when it came out. I only beat the game once, so it was fun to go back and refresh my memory a little bit, and even though some of the elements are somewhat dated, especially when compared to the newer Luigi's Mansion games, the second one on the 3DS and the Nintendo Switch one, I think it's a game worth revisiting if you guys have have not played it in a long time. I had a lot of fun playing it. And at number five, we have another Game Pass game that I played through the Xbox One, and it's Old Man's Journey. I did not make an impressions video on this, but it was a very interesting indie game, pretty short in nature. It's basically like a side-scrolling walking simulator, sort of. A very interesting game. You play as an old man that relives his memories throughout his life. So it does have that kind of like sentimental vibe going on for it, but it's a pretty well done game, pretty charming graphics, and if you guys have the Game Pass service, I think it's worth a shot. Just playing the game and exploring it. I had a lot of fun doing it. Next up is number six, Kirby Battle Royale on the Nintendo 3DS. I do have an impressions video on this. And this is one of those weird Kirby games. It's not a mainline game, but it's kind of like a collection of Coliseum mini games, if you will, where this game got released later, late in the 3DS life cycle, so I think a lot of people didn't really pay too much attention to it, but I did have a lot of fun playing this game. If you guys want to check out my impressions video, I think it was a pretty fun title. It's not your typical Kirby game, but I had a lot of fun playing it. So at number 7, another I guess indie title, courtesy of Game Pass, on the Xbox One, and it's Oxenfree. This game, I think Alex Return to Mother Base had a lot of positive things to say about this game, and I put it on my radar ever since, and I finally got a chance to play it last year, and it was a very interesting game. It's kind of like it's not a visual novel, it's like a visual adventure game, like a point and click type of game with a lot of narrative and a lot of dialogue selections. You have to answer and pick certain answers and whatnot. It was a very interesting and dark story, like a coming of age story, but it turns pretty dark, and it has a very interesting outcome, in my opinion. I didn't make an impressions video, but highly recommend it if you guys are interested in this game. It's available on Game Pass if you guys are subscribed, but it's also available on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, and whatnot. So the game is out there for pretty much every platform. Let's see, at number 8, a weird game on my list. It's Halo Fireteam Raven. This is an arcade game it's a Halo arcade game, and I went to a professional organization social event, as part of my work. So my co-workers and I went out there and beat the game. You can have up to 4 people play the game at the same time, with the rifles and whatnot. So part of the event was they give you like a $20-25 credit. So all 3 of us, just jumped on the machine and decided to beat the game. It's your typical arcade game. It's very unfair. It just wants to eat your money basically. But we had a lot of fun, and we beat the game in like half an hour. We wound up spending pretty much our entire credits. But we got it done, and one of my coworkers, he's a pretty big Halo fan, so he had a lot of fun because a lot of the enemies and whatnot are part of the Halo universe. So at number 9, I beat Her Story on Android, cell phone, but this game is also available on Steam and maybe other systems. It's basically a video watching or investigation game, if I want to be more specific. Very hard to describe. I didn't make an impressions video, but it's one of those games that got a critical acclaim when it got released. You basically have to interrogate, or through a series of videos, interrogation videos, you have to kind of like find out what happened to this particular person and what types of events unfolded. So very interesting game, pretty short obviously, but I'm glad I played it because it's one of those out of normal type of games out there. For number 10, Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. I'm not huge into the Virtua Fighter games. I do have fond memories of playing the first one on the arcades. But this was part of Game Pass as well, so this is a 360 game. So I decided to download it and beat the campaign with I think a couple of fighters. So yeah, it was an okay fighting game. Nothing stood out, to be completely honest, for me. At number 11, a childhood favorite of mine, Stunt Racer FX, on the Nintendo Switch via their Super Nintendo online service. This is a childhood favorite of mine, and I was pleasantly surprised when Nintendo announced the inclusion of this game on their online service, because this is somewhat of a dark, not dark, but unknown game in Nintendo's lineup. So I was pleasantly surprised, and of course I had to relive my childhood memory. I did beat all the circuits, reverse mode, unlock the motorbike and all that. So yeah, it's a favorite of mine. I may do an impressions video later on just because I want to talk a little bit more about this, in my opinion, unknown gem for the Super Nintendo. Number 12, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You know, I beat the campaign, if you will, with a couple of fighters, unlocking the characters. I already talked about this game in detail many times on my channel. The Ultimate name is it pays tribute to the game actually, because this is truly the ultimate Smash Brothers game with all the characters and all the DLC that it's out there. I do have the first DLC pack, so it's always fun to go back and check the new fighters. So Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, another game that I completed in terms of the campaign or the single mode, and it was a lot of fun. At number 13, my most played Kirby game of all time, which is Super Kirby Clash, a free to start kind of like Monster Hunter-esque game set in the Kirby universe. I decided to pay, like I mentioned on my impressions video for this. I think you pay $30, and that's like the maximum amount where you unlock all the apples that you need in order to upgrade your weapons and armor and whatnot. I gladly did it. I spent 30 plus hours in this game, and I got my money's worth out of it. So for a while, I was addicted to this game, and it was a lot of fun playing online with different people, even though the net code wasn't the greatest. But yeah, Super Kirby Clash on the Nintendo Switch, a pretty fun title. At number 14, I have The Outer Worlds. I have a very extensive impressions video out there, but simply put, I was blown away by this first-person shooter or Western RPG, if you will. What Obsidian did, in my opinion, was a fantastic job, and it just makes me crave for a sequel or something similar to that game. So I may check out Pillars of Eternity, because I believe Obsidian did that game as well. But The Outer Worlds specifically, it was a fantastic game, great setting, great characters, and just overall fun gameplay. And the decision making in the game was, in my opinion, very well executed. So definitely one of my favorite games that I played in 2019. For number 15, I have Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle on the Nintendo Switch. This is basically XCOM in the Mario universe. I was a pretty big fan of the first XCOM game, so I was actually eagerly trying to play this game, and I finally did. Came out in 2017, and a lot of people put this game out there in their top 5, which was surprising because 2017 was loaded with a lot of great games. But with a good reason. I think the game was pretty fun. It was it's an out of the norm type of Mario game that I greatly enjoyed, and I do plan on making an impressions video to talk about the game a little bit more in detail later on. At number 16, another Mario game, another recurrent game on my yearly lists, and it's Super Mario World, one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite genres, platformers. And Super Mario World is just another fantastic title that I keep going back every year. I either play the game or more than likely I beat the game because it's not a long game, but it's just one of those games that I play it almost every year, and I always have fun. It's a childhood nostalgia trip for me, and I always have a good time playing that game. At number 17, I have a late life cycle 3DS game, which is WarioWare Gold, which is basically a combination of the micro games from previous Wario games, comprising the Game Boy Advance titles, the GameCube titles, Wii, and whatnot. And it's one of game that I really enjoyed. I might be in the minority here, but I do enjoy the quirkiness of Wario's friends, and it's always fun watching those cinematic movies, and then playing the micro games. Obviously, they're a true test to your reflexes, and they're always fun and surprising in many ways. So WarioWare Gold is definitely a good celebration of the franchise on the Nintendo 3DS. Number 18, a game that I just did an impressions video, which is Untitled Goose Game. A pretty silly indie, pretty charming game with charming graphics and just a very weird concept. It's a goose simulator game, pretty much, where you wreak havoc in this English town You have to complete objectives, and it's loads of fun. That's all I can say. If you guys want to check out my impressions video for more details, please do. But definitely one of my surprises and highlights of 2019. I played this on the Xbox One via the Game Pass service, but it's also available in other platforms. So make sure you check out Untitled Goose Game. It's a pretty short game, but loads of fun. And last but not least, we have number 19, Kirby's Dream Land 3. I may do an impressions video since I've been doing a lot of Kirby games impressions videos, but I played this on my Nintendo Switch via the SNES, their online service. And yeah, it wasn't my favorite game. I did enjoy the art direction. It was one of those late Super Nintendo life cycle games that has a very unique art direction. But in terms of gameplay, the game didn't really surprise me in a major way. But nevertheless, it's more of the same. It's a very solid Kirby game, worth trying if you're into the series, obviously. So that's it, guys. Only 19 games, and I know I missed a ton of high-profile games. I was hoping to play in 2019 games like the new Fire Emblem, the new Luigi's Mansion 3, Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch, Judgment, Shenmue 3, Resident Evil 2. I am beyond behind on my wanted games that I want to play. Hopefully 2020 gets better. My plan is to play a lot of the 2018 and 2019 high-profile releases that I missed, such as the games that I just mentioned, and on top of that, some of the 2018 releases like God of War, Spider-Man on the PS4, and a multitude of other games that I missed because I was just not playing a whole lot of games these past 2 years. But hopefully 2019 will be the year where I can rectify that. Yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my list of games, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take it easy.